Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, and welcome to He Set Me Free. My name is Robert. Today, I want to expand a little bit on a video that I posted yesterday with regards to the adversary and Uber. I've been doing a lot of thinking up on this, and I did a video on TikTok yesterday, and I said something that I failed to say yesterday for my YouTube video and my viewers. It is my firm belief now that Uber has added AI to its algorithm. And the reason why I say that is because in times past, I would take certain ways to, say, take shortcuts. Well, not in times past, even as early as Saturday. To take shortcuts to passengers, but then I would take the normal route to drop them off that Uber would give, so that I could beat the mileage, so Uber couldn't make as much money off of me, and that I could make more money and save gas and time. But then I started to notice, as early as 2 weeks ago, to be quite honest, maybe 3, that every time I would take shortcuts to get to passengers, my next ride would be further out and in areas where shortcuts were impossible to do, because you would have to literally take the route depending on Waco. And the reason for this is so that Uber could make up the difference of mileage lost. And I've noticed this quite frequently on a lot of rides, that whenever I say I shave 3 miles off of a pickup where Uber's trying to take me the long distance way, my next ride would be further out and a shorter ride, so that they could recoup that and more time to pick up. But not only that, I really noticed it the other day whenever I was picking up a passenger, and instead of taking him the shortcut way to go to Amazon to pick somebody up, which is the typical route, I took him the little longer way to gain a quarter of a mile in fare. It's the same destination, it's just a variable of literally a quarter of a mile. But on this particular occasion, going to pick somebody up, actually, Uber tried to get me to go the long way instead of the short way, but I took the short way. And I thought, that's a little weird, that it would try to guess my path. But that's not the only time that I've noticed that going to pick people up, say in the Baylor area, I always go down go down Bagby on the new road, because it cuts off about 3/4 of a mile to a mile than the typical route that Uber wants me to take, so that they can make more money. That it's starting to predict that route as well too. It's learning my drive. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's learning my driving habits. So what it does is it gives me a ride in the opposite area of town, or if I'm driving back to, say, if I pick somebody up at the Baylor area, to take them to the Amazon fulfillment center, it'll give me a ride back in the same area or a little farther out to make up that difference. Because once you get into the Baylor area, outside of taking that Bagby and New Road, you can't take any more shortcuts. Or if you go over into North Waco, or say Belmead, Lacey Lakeview area, or East Waco, you can't take shortcuts because you're so far from them and there's only direct routes. You either take I-35 or Waco Drive or Franklin to get to these people, and the farther North Waco that you get, the harder it is to take shortcuts. It's almost impossible, especially once you get towards the Lake Shore area. So these are just little things that I started to pick up, and it's to get me to drive farther and to keep from having such a quick turnaround, meaning I can't drop them off for my next ride as fast. But I've also noticed too how the algorithm manipulates me personally. This is my personal experience to get me to pick up passengers. It'll often say if it can't get somebody over there, it'll say premium pickup likely, which is a long distance pickup. But if you've been driving for Uber long enough, you know that you have to drive X amount of miles and X amount of minutes to get a premium pickup likely. So what the algorithm or the AI is doing is it's manipulating the trip to get you to pick them up. And you're really not getting anything. Not as you would think that you would get. It's only a few cents and it's not even worth your time. But not only that, it's hiding aspects of the ride. Like I had one Saturday that it was a 25-minute ride. It said premium pickup likely, but what it hid was that there was multiple stops. Because with that language there in and of itself, it's more likely that that passenger is going to be declined by riders or drivers to get picked up. So they're now hiding language, or they're stacking minutes onto a ride to get that passenger picked up, when in reality, like last week, I carried someone down to Austin, and then I turned my Uber back on about Bruceville Eddy. So I was 11 miles out, or 10 miles out, and 13 minutes out. And I drive to pick this person up. Now, whenever I accepted the ride, it said 9 minutes for trip. He gets in my car, and it's only a 4-minute trip. So I complained about it to Uber. They know exactly what's going on whenever you go and you complain about such things. That the AI now manipulates trips to get drivers to accept these kind of rides. Because, why? Like I told them, why would I drive 10 miles and 13 minutes for a 4-minute ride? Why would I? It's a waste of my gas. I said, and based off of that, my current gas usage that my car gets, I'm only making $2.40 off of that ride. Why would I do that? I'm not making any money. You're making money, but I'm not making any money. So these are just little things. Drivers need to be aware of what Uber is doing now. Lyft has not caught up with the AI yet that I've seen. I drove for Lyft yesterday. I tried 2 rides on Uber, and whenever I say that Uber is now capping, I mean that. But something else that I noticed too, before coming to do this video, used to, until I started staying out longer, this is how I know too that they're using AI. I would get really close to my goal. If I didn't make X amount of dollars by 9 o'clock in the morning, I considered it a bad day. Well, now that I'm staying out longer, Uber's pushing that amount, say to 10 or 11 o'clock, trying to force me to stay out longer. I used to never do that. But now that it is, it's now building a profile, if you will, of the driver. So now it's trying to spread out those rides and to get you to use more gas. But something else too that I noticed is if I log on to Uber, say at Quick Trip, it knows these spots. It knows where the gas stations are. It will send me to a farther destination for pickup. Then all of a sudden I'm driving all over Waco so that I will use up my gas and not make the money as if I had logged off nowhere near a gas station. And in fact, if I don't log on near a gas station, I'll sit there for a while before I even get a ride. That happened twice. And it wasn't because it was slow. There's rides in Waco, but the algorithm now is picking up the patterns, it would appear, of drivers. It knows when you're getting gas. It knows your stops. Yesterday was the first time I physically logged off of Uber. I've always suspected that even turning my GPS off in my phone, that it was still tracking my movements some way, somehow. I also know this, that if I'm driving for Lyft, or if I'm driving for Uber and I keep Lyft is on in the background, all of a sudden these areas that Uber has sent me into, Lyft will send me into because it's tracking my movements. This I know for a fact. It's not a coincidence. But Uber, another thing that I noticed last week with Uber, I think it was on Tuesday, I tried to get out of North Central Waco with everything that I possibly could. I would hit my brake button, drop people off. It would send me to go pick up a ride to carry them back to the area that I was trying to get out of. It ended up being a pretty decent day. But I couldn't get out of that area to save my life. In times past, I could go drive for Lyft for a little while and then come back onto Uber. And I'd get back into my desired area. Not anymore. It sent me right back into that area each and every time. Finally, I gave up. And that's what it consistently did. Belmead, Lacey Lakeview area. I would turn my Uber off, go the other side of Waco. I'd get one ride, and then it would send me back to the Belmead area, Lacey Lakeview area. It did that. I made 5 trips that day out there. 5. Now, you can't tell me that there's not closer drivers. So they're building these profiles, and by using AI, they're locking you into areas. See, we all know if you drive for Lyft, Lyft tries to keep you in areas. All right? Zoning you is what I call it. Uber used to not be like that. You could turn off and then go to an area and then pick up and start all over again. Not anymore. That example of North Central that I talked about, I'd be in that area. It would send me all the way to go to pick somebody up. Completely out, like a lady I picked up at a dental office. And I carried her right back into that area again. It didn't happen once, it happened a couple times. Because it tries to manipulate, oh good, I'm finally going to get out of this. Nope, you're not getting out of this area. But also too, beware, wherever you accept your first ride. Your first ride, your second ride, and your third ride, that's the areas that Uber's going to stick you in, and you are not going to get out of that area. Mainly your first ride. Wherever that first ride is picked up at, not dropped off, picked up, you're more than likely going to get stuck in that area, and you're not going to get out of it. At least that's here in the Waco area. And I think that they're doing that to keep drivers from clustering in certain areas that they're trying to spread out. But I also noticed something too. I only had 2 rides on Uber yesterday. Surging here in Waco. I noticed it a couple years ago. But yesterday it really confirmed it. That they'll strategically put surging in areas to get drivers in with no intentions of giving them rides in those surge areas. They want you to go hit the surge, and then they're going to give you a ride that's going to be completely outside of that surge because they now give you an extra $1.50. Like the ride that I had yesterday, $1.50, or it might have been $1.25. And sent me 6 miles away to go pick somebody up for a 2.2 mile ride. So what they're doing is, oh, well, now you're making more than $3.40. We can get you to go pick up that ride. I got off of Uber after that point and stayed on Lyft at that point. At which point my earnings started to go up. Whenever you start seeing these patterns like this, if you are a Lyft driver, go on to and do Uber. Get off Uber and go on to Lyft. That's the only way. That's the only way that you're going to make any kind of money. Because at that point now, Uber is trying to slow your earnings down so that it can still make money, and it's going to take and keep pushing you out farther and farther and farther. Oftentimes enough, it will only give you one good ride, and it's typically your first ride. and then they're going to zone you into an area that you keep having to go into, and you're going to start losing money. They're still making money. Remember, drivers, you are not, or they are not out anything. You're the one that's out. You're the one that's providing the car, the gas, the phone service, the phone, paying for the insurance. What are they out? Nothing whatsoever. So by them implementing AI into their systems, they are now winning. Where drivers could actually beat Uber, it's becoming harder and harder to beat Uber. And the only way to do that is to get off the platform and to go do something else. If you do DoorDash, go do DoorDash. If you drive for Lyft, go drive for Lyft. If you do Instacart, whatever the case may be, get off the platform. Because all you're going to do is use more gas, put more miles on your car. They're going to make money regardless. And you're going to lose. At least with Lyft, and I can honestly say this, and don't get me wrong, Lyft is sketchy. It's really sketchy. But Lyft has gotten better about paying its drivers to a certain extent. There was several rides that I had yesterday. If it would have been on Uber, I would have only gotten $3.35 for those rides. But I got over $4. $4.14, $4 and some change. More, up to $5 more. So Lyft was paying way better for those shorter trips, because why? They're paying you to drive over there to go pick them up, where Uber is not. So Lyft has gotten better in some aspects. Now there's times that on Lyft where you can tell, oh, they're not paying for pickup today. They're being a little greedy. When they're like that, then Uber has a tendency to pay a little bit better. My rule of thumb is if Uber's taking more, Lyft is paying better. And vice versa. Is if Lyft is being stingy, Uber's paying more. That's typically the standards. But the days of Waco, here in Waco, to drive for Lyft is typically Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Well, Mondays is an Uber day. Wednesdays is a toss-up. And Thursdays is a toss-up. But with what I've seen now with the way that Uber's doing things, that you will hit a majority of your income at the first part of the week, and then it'll start to slide. See, I've always known that Mondays have always been a really good day. And if Mondays isn't a good day, Tuesdays is, which was the case this week. I had an excellent Tuesday last week. Monday was mediocre. Wednesday, I had to stay out on the roads longer to hit my goal over $100. But then Thursday fell off. Friday was my worst day of the absolute week. Saturday sucked. And then I had 2 rides on Sunday. That's because I noticed that I was hitting my cap of what Uber's going to allow me to make of $600. And they started slowing me down by giving me rides in very undesirable areas. Rides that were discounted rides because they are drivers or passengers that don't use Uber that often. Have you ever noticed how it's very rare that you pick up the same passenger more than once? That you get a different passenger virtually every day? Every day. Every single day. I've noticed it in the past 3 weeks. It is very, 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 very rare that I pick up the same passenger. And if I do pick up the same passenger, it's because of their profile where the AI has picked up. We can't get anybody to accept this ride. So I happen to have a good ride with that passenger, and I gave them a good rating. So they would give me that ride again. And then I got the individual a third time, at which point I gave her a bad rating. I didn't rate her, I rated the ride. Because I now know that Uber has paired me up with that passenger, and they can't get anybody else to pick up. But I get, because I gave her a good rating, and I did not rate the ride, I had a good experience with the passenger. And oftentimes enough, if I give a bad rating, it's not to the passenger. It is, I am rating the ride. I'm rating how far I have to drive to pick the passenger up, what area of Waco it is in, the distance of the trip. And then I wait before I give, oftentimes enough, before I give a star rating, I wait to see how much I get paid, because it's screen over screen and I can see the payout. If it's less than what I think that it is, they get a bad rating. I had a ride yesterday or Saturday where I thought I was going to get more, but something wasn't sitting right with me, so I rated the ride. I didn't rate the passenger. That's why, and he got a bad rating. So, or actually, it was yesterday. I had a passenger. I had 3 rides on Uber yesterday. I thought I had 2. It was 3, and I took shortcuts to go pick him up. Uber paid me the base. He got a bad rating. So, because of the payout. Not because of area pickup or drop off, because of how much they paid me. Because he was a one-time user. So just keep these things in mind whenever you're out driving, and start being savvy about what ride you accept. Know your areas. And start detecting everything that I've talked about with what Uber is doing these days to manipulate drivers, how they're trying to get you to drive more, put more miles on your car, actually devaluing your cars. And be stern with your decisions. So y'all be blessed. Until the next time, we will talk to y'all later.